Hello, everybody. It is 9:01 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday, December 28th, 2016. Welcome into the Earthquake 3D live stream, where we daily recap seismic events from around the planet, and we issue semi-daily and weekly earthquake forecasts for new areas to watch for movement. And for those of you just now tuning in, you may not be aware, the largest earthquake in several years' time has struck at the California-Nevada border. And this is the largest earthquake in Nevada in many years, and at the California border, also several years to see this size of movement occur. It started out at 5.8, 5.9, was downgraded to 5.7, then another 5.7 quickly hit right afterwards, 5 minutes later, followed by a swarm that you can see here on the screen, totaling over 50 different events above 2.5, and 100 different events if we include the smaller earthquakes in the 1 and 2.0 range. So it's a significant size swarm. And at this point, I think it would be a good idea to show anybody in here who's new where the earthquake struck. So to show you where the earthquake struck, there's two ways to do this. One, just to open up Google Earth and for me to zoom in on my place mark. But I'd rather show you real time how to do this yourself, so that in the future, you can do this on your own whenever you see a significant size earthquake strike in a location that you might not normally see. You can go look up the coordinates by doing what I'm about to show you. You get the coordinates from the USGS earthquake page. Click on the main earthquake, it'll open up this page, and you take the coordinates up top and hit copy. Then you go over to Google Earth, and I recommend you use Google Earth because it's free, first of all. You can download a copy for free from earth.google.com. I don't get anything from recommending this, but no www, just earth.google.com. It'll give you a copy of this. Then you can download the place marks that I've assembled, or from the Smithsonian or USGS, wherever you want to get your place marks. And you can then document where the earthquakes are striking by placing your own thumbnail on here for future reference. And so we can compare where the earthquake's striking to where the nearby volcanoes are, for instance. Now, if we take a look at the area, you're going to see red triangles. Now, somebody in the Google Earth community marked that as a meteor crater, question mark? No, it's the Mono Lake volcanic field. And somebody probably answered that question on here by now. But if you take a look at it, this is marked by the Smithsonian. The Mono Lake is actually a supervolcano, about half the size of Yellowstone. But the earthquake is striking to the north on the flanks of something called Aurora Crater. And Aurora Crater is exactly as it sounds. It's a volcano, ancient. It's not going to erupt. We're not looking at any eruption threat right now, or if it is, it's less than 1%. I mean, so low. We're actually looking at expenditure of energy that's occurring at these locations. The reason the energy is expending at these locations is twofold. One, pressure is coming from off the coast. So where did the pressure come from? It came from an area to the northwest, and here let me go ahead and turn this around again. To the northwest, off the coast, yesterday. So yesterday there was a similar sized earthquake that struck here off the coast of Oregon. Nobody felt it because it was several hundred miles out to sea, but it was right inside of our red arrow. We went and looked up the station locations last night just to make them public and show everybody, and we talked about how it probably tallied up to a 5.7. Well, we also issued multiple warnings over the past 3 to 4 days for California to be struck by a 5.7. So now here's a 5.7, two different 5.7s, striking on the flanks of Aurora Crater, and I didn't show this to you, but the other volcanic butte here, let's zoom back in on the earthquake location. Aurora Crater is the nearest crater, but this lava flow over to the east is on an unnamed volcanic butte. And this is a lava flow. You can zoom in on any angle on this and make out that there's now some growth going on it because, of course, these areas store water when the desert nearby does not. So the old lava flows, and this is the old cinder cone that exists right here at the center. And it broke out at some point a long time ago, and it flowed a viscous lava out over the countryside only a few miles out, but about 300 feet high. So that lets you know how big of a flow it was and how thick the lava was, because it didn't spread out more than just a couple miles. Same with Aurora Crater. You can see the lava flow associated with that, but it's not huge. It's not spread out over, 100 square miles. It's only spread out over a few miles. So The largest earthquake to strike at the intermountain portion of California in years has now occurred in the time frame where we warned. This now means pressure is going to transfer to the east. It's going to go over to the fracking operations in the Midwest. We could see a noteworthy swarm or a single large earthquake equal to what is striking over here to the west. We'll put a watch for 72 hours on that, 3 days, and you need to keep watch at the southern Colorado fracking operations, western Texas near Fort Stockton, and of course our main target is here in western Oklahoma, pretty much where our 3.2 resides, maybe a little bit further east-southeast in central Oklahoma. But nonetheless, Oklahoma needs to be on watch, and it needs to be on watch for the next 3 days. Okay? Now, as we go overseas, you'll see that Japan was struck right where we warned. We warned Japan for a low 6.0 earthquake to be striking where our letter D and our arrow meets. Well, the D is right there, the arrow is right there, and the 6.0 is right at the tip of the arrow. So, and now it's 5.9, but 6.0 struck in the spot where we warned for a low 6.0 on the day we're expected. Thirdly, Papua New Guinea, which we warned where our arrow meets. We talked about this 2 days ago. We issued a 72-hour warning for it to occur. It has been well over a week since Papua New Guinea's been struck. Take a look at the last week's worth of earthquakes, okay? They're all marked in red. And then the most recent earthquake marked in white. Obviously, the only spot that was left to be hit was our middle fulcrum point. And we warned the area right here near the border of Papua New Guinea. This is definitely within the warning zone. Magnitude-wise, it's, 5.5, I'm sorry, 5.5, not 5.3. USGS lowballing it, as always. We go with the more trustworthy reading from the Europeans. So 5.5 struck, and that's no shock. We were looking for a 5.5 to strike, or a up to 6. So I was saying the larger of the earthquakes that struck in here would be striking at Papua New Guinea, 5.5 there, and the 5.1 struck over here, by the way. So, Papua New Guinea hit, Japan hit, California hit. These were all forecast locations over the past several days. I'm not bragging, I just have to tell you. Okay? So, now that these locations have been hit, we also have to watch over to the west. And significantly enough, here at Pakistan, at the Pakistan border with Russia and China, struck by directly at our letter D where our arrow meets with a 4.8. This 5, which is what it originally started out at, let's go consult the Russian feed really quick. Thanks to my dedicated viewers, MC Player and Squeaks, they've made this international feed from the Russians and from several other agencies possible. Now, it takes a minute for the Russian data to populate because, again, guys, we're talking about information coming from overseas. So let me just hit refresh really quick. It'll time out if it doesn't get the request back from Russia within a certain amount of time. And I'm sure I have to go through multiple feeds and multiple security, I don't even know what to call it, web security for the United States and several other locations. Here we go. Okay, here's the Russian feed. Now take a look at it. They have it as a 5. Okay, so you just got to understand, or no, they don't have it as a 5. They've got it as a 4.2. Interesting. So they have it as a 4.2. USGS had it at a 5.0. This makes a difference. I'm glad I consulted it. This makes a big difference. So if USGS is overshooting on this earthquake, then it means it's a lesser earthquake, which means it's a less of a threat to Europe. So I'm going to put it between the 4.2 and the 4.8, which will be at a 4.5. So let's say a 4.5 has struck here where our letter D is. And it is slightly deep, but it's not terribly deep. That means 4.5 is going to be pushing across Iran, going into Turkey and Greece, which means there's now a potential for a 4.5 to be striking between Crete and Cyprus yet again. That happened yesterday, it's going to happen today, but it's going to be a little less than what happened yesterday, which was the 5. So that's going to happen in the next 48 hours, 2 days, to transfer from the letter D over to South Europe. And the pressure always follows these directions. Once the 4.5 hits back down here in Greece, that will increase things back in Italy, back into the 4.0 range. Right now you're only at 2, so you're going to double in earthquake size. You're going to go up by 100-fold, power-wise. So you go from 2s to 4s. And that'll happen within the next 2 days. Okay? A lot going on right now. El Salvador was struck off the coast, 4.7. Look at the progression of earthquakes. So the older earthquakes are up north, younger earthquakes are down south. Clearly, it's increasing in magnitude, going from 3.5 to 3.6 to 4.7. Well, if that's going to hold true, you guys ever do these progressions where you skip numbers? So if you go 3.5, 3.6, 4.7, that to me would say the next one up would be 4.8, right? If it's going to follow that onesie twosie all the way down. So we would have to watch further to the south for 4.8 to be developing south of the location where the 4.7 is, and that takes us down into Panama, okay, Costa Rica, Panama, going down into Colombia. It's a very small little area. It's a little bend here down at the southern portion of Central America. Okay, so same time that's going on, down to the south, take a look at what happened. A new deep earthquake at our letter D. D stands for deep earthquake, and we've had that on the map for weeks. So you can clearly see where the spots that we expect deep earthquakes to occur, and this deep earthquake occurred right inside of our letter D. Well, look at the magnitude on this, guys. Magnitude on this is 3.5. Well, a 3.5 has the potential to cause a 4.5 to 5.5 in a nearby silent zone, which means the silent zone nearby, it's standing out pretty obvious, no earthquakes there. 5.5 potential, 4.5 to 5.5 potential, which would be just to the north. Since it's striking on the letter D is where we have our interior smaller arrows going, takes it up to the north right at our triangular bend on South America, so up to 5.5, and that should happen within 48 to 72 hours. So we have several new locations where we have 48 to 72 hour watches, including in the Midwest U.S. and on the West Coast. One other area I need to mention, Southern California. Over the next few days, you're going to notice a few things happen. If you live down in Southern California, you have a few days to prepare for this. Now, maybe up to 48 hours. The pressure up to the north is going to mainly transfer to the east, over in Oklahoma. But, same time that happens, we should also see pressure transferred down to the south, lesser than what's going over to the east. Which means Southern California, you stand at risk at two different locations. One, Salton Sea, right down here at the southern tip of California, it's an active volcano. The swarm will increase there, and the magnitudes will increase. Could go up to the 4 range, 4.2. A little bit less than what's striking up here. It's going to be the leftover pressure going down to Southern California. The second spot you need to watch for potential 4.0 activity is just to the north. This is at the pumping operations at Santa Barbara. Ventura, Santa Barbara, going just east. I guess that brings us north of Los Angeles. Okay, so Santa Barbara, Ventura, right there, there's pumping operations. That would extend for the next 2 to 3 days at the most. At the most. So if it doesn't hit within 2 to 3 days in Southern California, the 4s, I will cancel the warning for the 4s, but you're going to see some swarming. It's going to swarm. No doubt about it. Pressure's going to come down, and it's going to hit, and it's going to swarm. Let's go ahead and turn on the 24-hour feed for the USGS to see all of our smaller earthquake swarms as they stand right now, so we have something to compare to for later today and going into tomorrow. So, take a look at the stack of earthquakes in Southern California right now, right? You see they're all just like onesie-twosies that are not very tall. You see the stack of earthquakes here, right? Okay, now imagine a stack of earthquakes like this down in Southern California all of a sudden. Okay, not in the same magnitude. These are all 5.7 and 5s. We're talking more like 4 at the most, in the 4 range. So it would be a big swarm, but it's going to be way bigger than what you're seeing here right now. And look at the area. That's the San Andreas Fault. It's the whole San Andreas Fault moving right now at 1.0 level. Pretty much 1 all the way across the fault over the past 24 hours. Well, that's going to increase. That's going to go up in magnitude, and it's going to go up in frequency, the number of earthquakes. Okay? So, all in all, have a plan. Don't be scared. Be prepared. And being prepared means looking around, knowing what's knowing what's going on, having a plan, and seriously, looking around your house and seeing what preps you can make that could stop the breaking of things, broken glass. Those kind of preps are the most important. And to know what to do when the actual earthquake strikes. If you're in bed and you have to jump out of bed, these are things you have to take into consideration. Do you want to jump out of bed into a bed of broken glass on the floor with no shoes by your bed? Think about it. Little preps, little things you can do. Have you moved the things out of the way of your door so that if you have to run out the door and there's things shaking, that you don't have things falling in front of your door that you have to move? Okay, so think about the little things. Those are the big things that matter when an earthquake strikes. So the little things are the big things. They're the improvements you can make now that don't cost anything or hard next to nothing. But in times of unrest, you will be so happy that you have developed that plan. Make sure your kids know it. Make sure your employees know it. Make sure your friends, family, roommates know it if you can get them to listen. And that's the best you can do. You'll be prepared. You'll be more prepared than any of the people around you. So ultimately, pressure transfers. It transfers across the plates. That's why Japan was hit, and that's why the west coast of the United States were hit within hours of each other with the same size earthquakes. Pressure transfers across the United States from the west coast to the east coast in a matter of days. Pressure transfers across Central America and South America, ultimately going out to the mid-Atlantic ridge, where our X marks are and where our final termination point is for our earthquakes. Okay? It all transfers across the globe. We're all connected like this. So if you live on the West Coast, you kind of got to pay attention to what's happening over in the West Pacific. If you live in the Midwest, you got to pay attention to what happens on the West Coast. You'll see it coming days ahead of time. You'll see it coming to you like a train down the tracks, off in the distance. And as it gets closer, you know to get away from the tracks. Or if you can't get off the tracks, you at least know to be prepared for what's coming. Right? So, the best you can do is be prepared. That's the best we can offer for anybody who's listening. I would encourage you to also subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to grow it into something that's impressive on YouTube so that more people listen. That's the only reason that you really want to grow on YouTube, is that more people listen, the bigger you grow. So if you could subscribe, I would appreciate it. If you're new here, I do this on a daily basis. So most likely I'll be back on in the next, let's put it at an hour this time. So by 10:15 a.m. Central Time, 11:15 a.m. East Coast Time, and 8:15 a.m. West Coast Time, I will be on again to do another update. Okay, so word up to my people. Much love to everybody in chat. I'm pushing well beyond 24 hours up now, man. I'm like burning the wick at both ends. So let's turn off the stream for now, or not the stream. Let's turn off the microphone for now, and you guys can listen to some more music. We'll be back in a little while.